Phil, welcome back to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I hope you're doing well, man.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, it seems like, we get together on Radio Row like once a year now. It's like almost common thing with Alabama and Clemson, right?
It's becoming one of the nation's best rivalries. And, why not play it out on the highest stage, semifinals, national championship? Doesn't matter. They're looking forward to meeting each other again, I'm sure.
Phil, help us understand what Dabo has been able to create with that culture in Clemson, and just talk about what you see from Dabo, obviously national championship winning coach, but just help me understand the culture there, that what he's created.
Well, I think it's a case where if you say something over and over and over again to enough people, they'll begin to believe it. And when Dabo took over, 9 years ago, whatever it was, 8-9 years ago, he started with various slogans and various sayings and various plans for the program, various goals that seemed laughable at the time that he stated them. But he never backed down. He kept repeating them everywhere he would go. And Clemson's going to win championships, and Clemson's going to become the gold standard, that other schools are going to want to be like Clemson. And besides Dabo, he's been fortunate in that he's had athletic directors from Terry Don Phillips, who hired him, to Dan Radakovich, who now is his boss, to presidents there who share a similar vision and have given him everything that he and his staff need to achieve their goals. So he came to Clemson after some years in business, and he obviously has a very good business acumen and goal-driven, and knows how to complete tasks, very organized, and knows how to surround himself with good people. So, all of it has come together to make Clemson the model program in college football today.
Well, Phil, I'm not trying to get into comparisons, but I said this, and some Alabama folks got irritated at me saying this. I said, yes, it is a right to go to Atlanta, but it's also, it pulls side by side. If Clemson's able to beat Alabama, it's sort of like they're playing for the rubber match, whatever, the game number 3 of the World Series or whatever. But you look at it, to me, Clemson can pull up beside the Alabama, if not maybe take a couple of noses ahead. This game in New Orleans kind of goes for the model program that's current-day college football, the standard that you were just talking about.
Well, yeah, I would say so. This is for the bragging rights between these two high-profile programs. There's no better way to settle an argument than on the field, face-to-face. And Alabama won round 1, Clemson won round 2, and this is round 3. And, and I'm sure they're going to meet again down the road. But 2 out of 3 is what you're looking for. If you're able to be that team that wins that second game, then you do have the bragging rights for right here and now. And that's what both are aspiring to do. So, look, the winner is going to move on to the national championship game and have a chance to add to its legacy. The loser is still going to be a great football program and will be right back in the hunt next year. They're not going to go away. But in terms of this argument, Clemson and Alabama right now, that's evolved because of the last 2 national championship games, yeah, this will settle right now which has the better football program and the better football team. Maybe I shouldn't say program. It's year by year with teams. They both have great programs and great coaches, fans, and staff. So that's not going to change. But in terms of teams, 2 out of 3 is going to give Clemson the upper hand in terms of the comparison on the field.
What do you think?
Or the other way around.
No, I totally agree with you. Alabama fans get irritated at me saying this. I'm getting negative tweets and text messages right now as we talk, but it's the truth when you look at the standard that's been created. Let me ask you, just looking at this Clemson football team, what is different about this team compared to last year's team?
Not as explosive on offense, but still very, very good. The Alabama defensive line will see the same offensive line it saw last January, except at center. The other 4 guys are all back and all have played a lot of football. The center is new, but he was the All-ACC center this year. Of course, Kelly Bryant is not Deshaun Watson. He's not the thrower, the overall thrower, and explosive player that Deshaun was at Clemson, but he is very, very good. Much better than anybody thought. 66% completion, can run when he needs to. And much like Deshaun, he's fast enough to get to the sticks. You know how that drove Alabama crazy 2 times in the national championship game. If they play man coverage and they turn their backs on Kelly Bryant and leave the middle of the field open or the sideline open, he'll be just fast enough to beat you to the first down marker and keep drives moving. That's what he does. Running backs, there is no single Wayne Gallman who was the workhorse, but between Feaster and Etienne, they've got 2 splendid running backs, and Etienne has in particular some excellent breakaway speed. Hunter Renfrow is back. You know, he's caught 4 touchdown passes in 2 games against Alabama. It's incredible what a walk-on has done against that great secondary, but he's a terrific possession receiver. When Clemson needs a first down, on 3rd down, or their 2nd long, you can almost bet it's going to go to Renfrow, probably on a dig or a curl or something like that. And then, you know, Ray McLeod gives them breakaway speed, as does Deion Kane down the field. And they got good young receivers. Defensively, they're as good as ever. They've taken no step back on defense, and they'll be even better. They get Trey Lamar back off the injury list for this game. They get Mark Fields back off the injury list and Marcus Edmonds back. So they'll be whole on defense for the first time in weeks. And the one difference will be kicking. If it comes down to a place kick, they'll be very nervous because they lost their kicker, Greg Hugel, to a knee injury in practice many weeks ago. Alex Spence has taken over. He's a bit on the shaky side. So he did hit a good field goal against South Carolina of some distance. So that's a new piece there. Everything else is the same. Every coach who was on the sideline last year for Clemson against Bama is back on the sideline this year.
Phil, when you look at Kelly Bryant here, Mika Fitzpatrick has said in the last 24 hours that there's a lot of similarities between him and Deshaun Watson. Do you see those similarities?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're both very mobile. They're both dangerous with their legs, and they can both beat you with their arm. Again, I don't think Kelly has the down the field cannon that Deshaun Watson had, but he's still very, very precise with the football. He hit his first 15 passes in the ACC championship game, and I swear every one of them was like where you would draw it up on the film to where you want the quarterback to put the ball. I don't think he made a receiver break stride at all in catching any of those 15 passes. That's how good he was. So he can be very good in the passing game, but he's more dangerous as a runner. He's a tremendous athlete overall, and they will use him, predetermined runs for him, and then if the pocket breaks down, he can certainly take off and make something happen with his legs.
Phil, let me go back to the Syracuse game. Obviously, it was not a good performance. In a lot of ways, I know the concussion and the situation around Kelly Bryant, but can you dive a little bit deeper what went wrong for them or maybe what went right for Syracuse? What did they do to counter Clemson's attack and was so successful?
Well, first of all, Kelly shouldn't have been playing at all. He went into the game on a bad ankle, and then he aggravated the ankle in the first half on that turf at the Dome. He was limping noticeably. He did not have the mobility that he had prior to that. And then, of course, he had the concussion. So they had to go to a backup quarterback in kind of a difficult situation. Syracuse was playing some pretty good football at the time, and their offense is pretty flashy, and they have a very good quarterback who played a heck of a game against Clemson. And they just broke a lot of big plays against Clemson's defense with the quarterback running the football. They just found some seams. I don't know if the Clemson defense, fit the right seams and things of that nature, filled the gaps properly. But they just had some breakdowns, some unusual breakdowns for them, and Syracuse took advantage of it in their running game in particular. They also hit a couple of big pass plays, too, that that led to some points for them, too. It was just a bad game for Clemson and a better than normal game for Syracuse, and then with Bryant being hurt, It was just too much for Clemson to overcome that night. And playing on a Friday night, I mean, it was just a lot of unnatural things happening, not making any excuses, but playing on a Friday night in Syracuse on the Dome, your quarterback's hurt, a lot of unnatural things going on for Clemson that night.
Phil Kornblut right now with us. It is sportstalksc.com as we move forward. Phil, let me ask you, is there a spot on this Clemson team that you see might be vulnerable, that Alabama might have some success against in that defensive area? It looks so talented from here, but you know it better than we do. Is there an area that's vulnerable that Alabama can attack?
No. I'm thinking.
Okay.
Their defensive front is great.
Outstanding. Probably the best in the country, if not.
Probably, yeah. Probably. Their linebackers are deep. They're getting Trey Lamar back. Dorian O'Daniel is excellent. Kendall Joseph, Trey Lamar. Ryan Carter at one corner is a veteran, had the pick six against South Carolina. He's been through it. The other corner, they're getting Mark Fields back. That'll give them some depth there. Their safeties are good. No, I mean, you're just going to have to play great football. I mean, look, Alabama can do its own thing on offense against the best defenses in the country. I'm not saying they're not going to get theirs. They've gotten theirs against Clemson's defense in the past. They're just going to have to play great Alabama football. But, I mean, there isn't one area that I would say, yeah, go after that person or go after that segment of the defense. They're good 15 men deep on the defense, various positions, if you add in the other guys. And they're well coached. You give Venables a month to get ready for you. He's going to have every scheme ready, and he's going to have every gap filled. You're just going to have to play better football and see if you can knock Clemson off the ball.
We're talking right now to Phil Kornblut. Let me ask you, when you look at on the offensive side of the football, what's the strength on the offensive line? Where is that strength, and how would you evaluate their offensive line?
Oh, excellent. Mitch Hyatt, left tackle, will be an NFL guy. Sean Pollard, Tremaine Ankrum on the right side, big tackles. Crowder at right guard is a 4-year starter practically. He's just a plugger at right guard. Taylor Hearn the same way at left guard. He's leaving after this year. He's already walked with the seniors, even though he's junior eligible. They expect him to leave. And then Paul Sinelli gives him some big size at center. Again, he's a young guy. He's a graduate student, but he's getting his first year as a starter. He's just waited his time and has stepped right in and had a great year. So they work well as a cohesive unit, and they've got good depth. There's 2 or 3 other guys they can run in off the bench to spell those guys on the offensive line. I mean, if Pollard's out there, then Ankrum's waiting to come in, and there's a couple of other guys that they run out there as well to spell guys. So they go about 8 deep, maybe 9 on the offensive line. Hard to wear them down because they've got good fresh troops waiting to run in.
Phil, what do you see in this Alabama football team from your perspective?
Well, they had a great year, obviously, and they ran into a hot team at Auburn, no question about it. I mean, that's no shame losing to Auburn at Auburn when they did. Alabama just looks like Alabama to me. I mean, a very dangerous quarterback, big offensive line, great running backs, scary receivers, maybe not quite the threat at tight end that hurt Clemson the last couple of years. Maybe that's going to be a difference right there. And Clemson the same way. They don't have Jordan Leggett. I should mention Mylan Richard is their starting tight end. He's Herschel Walker's nephew, by the way. But he's come on and gotten better, but he's not Jordan Leggett, that big threat at tight end. So both teams will be missing their big down-the-field threats that they had at tight end in the past. And, of course, Alabama's defense is always great. So I don't think the fact that Pruitt is going to be – I guess Pruitt is staying to coach the game. Am I right about that?
Well, we're still waiting. My guess is yes, but Nick Saban talks at 4:30 today, as does Dabo and the other college football playoff coaches. We'll know probably something better then. I think now we're just doing gut instinct, and my gut instinct is yes. But you've also, Phil, as we look, this is unlike any other year because you've got the early signing period. You know, I mean, you sort of got to go and establish something. So I don't know what Tennessee wants him to do. I don't know what Jeremy Pruitt. I would assume that he'll stay here in Tuscaloosa, but I'm not 100% certain.
Yeah. So got to wait and see on that. But whoever is the guy, I mean, their defense would be rock solid, though. I don't know how much they got upset last year with the changeover at offensive coordinator right before the national championship game. I really, their offense was still pretty good. They scored a bunch of points on Clemson last year. Clemson just had the benefit of getting the ball last and making that final drive.